Adhere to the Lord. Hallelujah. Hey, don't be taken back by what you see.
That's it, ride 88.
Be obedient. Trust in the Lord. Embrace the Spirit. Hey, we need you to screw us. It's easier than you think. Iron sharpens iron. It only take a few good brothers. Let's get it. It's the mush. Gotta apply it. Body script. Well, how let you phone? Let's be for real, know how you feel. Some of that odds can leave you with a bad taste. You know the fruits of the spirit. You lay it all out, tell me how. When I was in the trap, first time your fool heard about the truth. Blowing gas, laughing like they boys and fools. Sad bad, look at that, homie proof. Ain't bad with it, but it's still move. My spirit been witness. Needless to say, your folk was a dick. Went through it like Joe, that double up. Took away the cigarettes, relieved all the stress. The point of the story, don't let what you're going through cause disobedience. Pray I'm ready for the ones allotted to. What you going through, y'all let me help you. I know you might not think you where you wanna be. Let me help you with it, we'll get where we wanna be. Hey God, I admit myself that I ain't for real. Pray I'm in the spirit, bro, that's it. I know you might not think you I pray we stay in the spirit, bro, that's it. Hey, y'all talk no cap, bro, let's get it. Don't let that stop you from uniting. Let's do it, bro, don't let that hold you back. It's time right now. All praise to the Most High, now you know who you is. Now you know where you're from. Now you know why you come. Now you know who salvation for. Now you know they about to be hating more. Now you know temptation come. Get made go for testimony. Rock 1 and 1. Translated in another tongue, the word loses time. So we say Kala, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Kwam Yasharah, Rakatash. Y'all come in it out. So you sitting in line. You renewing your heart, you renewing your mind. I know you might not thank you. Let me help you with it. We'll get it. Iron sharpens iron. I admit myself that I ain't pray I'm in the spirit, bro. That's real. I know you might not thank you. Pray we stay in the spirit, bro, that's it. Hey, y'all admit it, I ain't. Don't let that stop you from uniting.
Must go get it. In times. Got a call from the Arcanal like we overdue, rock, we gotta work. So you know I had to drop a verse. Guard your light and put the Father first. Luke 11 verse 10, truth ain't hard to find, you just gotta search. My ox used to be members, now they members of the body. Who gon' stop the church? We ain't quite where we wanna be, but we doing a little better. Remember I was on the streets doing freestyles trying to warn the sheep. And them nights cold, couldn't go to sleep, that's facts. Flesh was saying give up, you should wait till you get on your feet. Holy Spirit said something different. Look, you gotta start somewhere. Ain't the kingdom where you wanna be. Have faith, that's substance. There's some things you ain't gonna see. Jacob go and tell the lost tribes that we got a king and he hold the keys. On the last day I pray let us in, wipe away our tears and we never leave. I know you might not be where you wanna be, but if you have not and ask not, you never gonna receive. I pray we get on one accord with it, never forfeit it. If you want a crown, must go and get it.
I know you might not thank you. I pray we stay in the spirit, bro, that's it. Hey, I'll admit it, I ain't. Don't let that stop you from uniting.
With all things exquisite, expensive taste and higher end living. I always knew that I would get here. Let's toast to the life of excellence, like different views on this level. Yeah.
Yeah, I got different views since I done came in this truth. Yeah, I got different views, that's why I jumped in the booth. I'm a Jew, you could tell by much more than my hue. Got the elegance of a duke, aristocrat is the move. I exist amongst gods, giving earth living food. A prince of the power of God, soon they'll see the root. I dived in the book, came out with wisdom and truth. I learned to spit it real smooth through the ways of YouTube. Blessed are the feet of them that decided to teach. Blessed be his voice, the way it right on this beat, count sheep. Every one of them that go out and preach. After they heard the word, the spirit decided to keep in the street. While they preaching to the chosen and meek, but not peace. What we saying make you wake up from sleep, it gets deep. With this type of shit you cannot be weak. Cause if you weak, you can wake up in the hands of the thief. Different view.
Connoisseur with all things exquisite, expensive taste and higher end living. Always knew that I would get here. Let's Let's toast to the life of excellence like, different views on this level. Yeah.
Yo, it's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've been in the booth, but I told you I wasn't finished. I promise on the mic I can still put on the clinic. Eternally one of the 12 princes. You see these fringes? Since I was a youngin', I always feel like a judge. Born an aristocrat, royalties in my blood. Still the prodigy, known as Easy Money the Prince. Just walk with a new light, the kind that you can't dim. I told niggas I'm back and we shooting above the rim. The flow of Cash Money shot, I showed you I got the print. Ain't been in the booth since I was 17 years old. Suckers thought I fell off, now I've been getting dope. Been sitting back, out here working on my glow. Bruise rocking, big chains, Rolex watches for show. Expensive garments, lilies, not crosses. If you come through, baby, please be cautious.
Connoisseur with all things exquisite, expensive taste and higher end living. Always knew that I would get here. Let's toast to the life of excellence like, different views on this level. Yeah.
Shalom, shalom, everyone. Shalom. Welcome back to another Milk Monday. I'm your captain. This is Captain Knock, and I am here with my brother, the mighty Captain Eliel. I'm sure he's gonna pop up here in a second. I don't see his icon. But hey, we want to welcome y'all to another Milk Monday class. This is Milk Monday with Anointed House of Saints. Before we get started, we want to first give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, and we want to thank everyone. You know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna pull a. This is the first work week, first day. How I want to say it? First day, everybody goes back to work is on Monday, right? Here in captivity. So you know what? It's the start of a new week. We just came off of a crazy hell day that they have every year, the 250th year of captivity. Well, actually, it's been longer for us under this place they call America. So I want everybody to put in the chat real quick, put a Thawada Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? I'm always inspired by Captain Aharon. We got to know how to give thanks in our good times and our bad times. All right. So everyone put a Thawada Yahweh. Let me see them Thawada Yahwehs. I'm not even going to continue until I start seeing the first two couple Thawada Yahwehs. All right. I'm glad to see everybody here. But drop them Thawada Yahwehs in the chat. We want to thank the Most High for giving us another day. All praises, all praises. I mean, we should be doing it every day, right? Every time we think about it, that should be coming out of our mouth, right? Thawada Yahweh. All praises to the Most High. Oh, okay, so hey, that's good. So I see him coming in now. All praises. I hope everyone has had a great first day of the week, a blessed first day of the week. Like I said, we just came off of a hell day that America celebrates every year with fireworks. They call it Independence Day, 4th of July. Some of us call it 4th of July. It's been how can I say? It's been an experience. It's been a journey for me, right? Because I didn't know about I didn't even think about the fact that we celebrate these holidays that we're born into. We don't know where they come from. We don't know how they started. We don't know why we're even doing them. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what background comes from it. We don't know any of that, right? So to think that we celebrate 4th of July and we get our kids together, we pay $500 to $1,000 worth of fireworks, and we shoot them off like we free. But yeah, we still here. But I think y'all get it. But I ain't gonna hold y'all up on that. Let me go ahead and get these announcements out real quick so I can get Captain on his class. Yo, check it out. Any brother that wants to do the work with Anointed House of Saints, right? All you have to do is send us your interest through email. All right. That email is anointedhos@gmail.com. Please state your name, your phone number, your city and state. Also, in the description line, make sure you put prospect phase so that we know what you are contacting us for and we can get that information out to you when it's available. Also, our sisters, we love so very much. Our sisters, we have a sisters ministry that we're putting together, right? Because we want sisters to be able to do this work. And I know there are some sisters who want to do the work with AHOS. So we do have our sisters ministry. Any sisters that want to be a part of this in any fashion, right? In any fashion, please contact us. anointedhos@gmail.com. Name, city, state, right? If any sisters, I guess I should say this, if any sisters that are married that are in the congregation, that, you know, I'm just throwing it out there, please, before you do send us any information, make sure you check with your husband on that. Just want to bring that out. Just check with your husband on that. All right. Also, bring that calendar up real quick. Our feast day calendar. This is our feast day calendar, Anointed House of Saints for 2026. Our next feast day coming up. What we got coming up? We have the Feast of Trumpets, right? And right after that, we have the Day of Atonement. And then pretty much after that, we have our Feast of Tabernacles that we are now putting together. We will have the itineraries set and ready to go probably by sometime next week. I can't promise that, but I'm assuming we will be having that type of information out for the itinerary for our 2026 Feast of Tabernacles. It should be out sometime next week. If not, then it'll be out very soon. All right. Also, new moon lesson coming up. Our next new moon lesson will be taking place on July 14th. That will be our 5th month. So that'll be the 5th moon. Be looking forward for that. We will be having a class on that new moon day. All right, on that new moon celebration. You can take it down. Thank you. Take that on down. Also, any brothers and sisters who come in for the first time and want to have someone, a congregation to kind of talk to, talk to brothers and sisters, we do have a congregation chat with Anointed House of Saints. If you would like to be a part of that, what you would have to do is we have a questionnaire that we give you. You answer the questionnaire. Once the questionnaire is completed, we'll then get back with you to let you know, to give you status to be able to join the congregation. But in that congregation chat, you got the leadership, you have the brothers, you have sisters. We all pray for one another. You know what I'm saying? We joke around with each other. We study together. We ask questions. We're like a true congregation. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not under one building because we all live in different states. But when we do come together, it's a wonderful thing. And it's a wonderful opportunity to bring up ideas for our community that we can do as a congregation, right? To bring in more of our people who are still out there in Babylon, just doing whatever, all right? But I ain't gonna say no more. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the thumbnail up so you can see the title of tonight's lesson. Let's do that real quick. Lesson is titled, Milk Monday Presents Proof of Black Jews and Danites from Israel to Arsareth. So Captain Eliel, if those who may not know, may be here for the first time, Captain Eliel has been going intently and extensively dealing with the Danites, dealing with the Greek, dealing with everything that a lot of other camps don't go into. I think this is a wonderful way of being able to understand the culture of our people, also the mysteries, right? Because we don't see too much of where the Danites were, where they went, where they're going, right? And Captain Eliel has really took a lot of time researching a lot of this information. So I think it's very impressive. I think everybody should be attentive. As I usually often say, we are an Israelite Bible school. So we do teach, we do study, we study to teach. And we expect those who come on here to learn or to be edified. But we do ask you this, make sure you have your Bibles, make sure you have your notepads, your markers, pens, right? So you can write information down, write precepts down. And if you have any questions or if you have any comments that you want to make, we want everybody to share in these lessons. Drop something in the chat, all right? All praise to the Most High. All right, last but not least, let's go ahead and get this shout out real quick, and then we're gonna get class started. All right, first one up, as always, Mother Johanna, shalom to your mother, praying for you as always. Shalom, good to see you. Shalom to the mighty brother Tank, aka Azariah, Mr. Gunn, shalom to you, King. Shalom, the tribe of Judah. Seen you last time. Good to see you back. All praise to the Most High. Shalom to the mighty soldier Nadiyab, Mr. Engineer, shalom, King. Good to see you. Shalom to Dawa's Rib. That's Asanaya. That's the house of Yahweh Dawa. How you doing, sis? Good to see you. Welcome as always. Shalom to the mighty soldier Yaiquab out in North Kakalaki. Always good to see you, brother. All right. Shalom to the mighty captain out in the bay, Captain Shaquat. Captain Shaquat, the one with the butters. Y'all don't understand. Them butters are bad, y'all. Y'all don't understand it. Almost gotta like put this. Let me put this up there. It won't stay up. There we go. Shalom to the mighty soldier Gary. Also out in Cali. Shalom to you, King. Shalom to the mighty Captain Judah, also on North Kakalaki. That's Big Judah. Actually, I can't even call him Big Judah no more. Gotta call him Medium Judah. Shalom to the mighty officer Kasaja down in Naptown. That's in my home state. Shalom to you, King. Always good to see you. Anybody else? I think that's probably it. All right. So anyone want to get a shout out? Throw something in the chat. One of the brothers will shout you out. You know what I'm saying? But without further ado, we're going to let Captain go ahead and get started on this. Again, tonight's lesson, Milk Monday lesson, is proof of proof of Black Jews and Danites from Israel to Arsareth. It's all yours, King.
Hey, can y'all hear me from right here? Like talking like this? I sound okay?
Sorry, loud and clear. Yep.
All right, bet. Let's make sure. All right. Shalom, everybody. Shalom. Of course, like Knox said, we want to start by giving all honor and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Tonight's class is going to be a continuation of what we've been talking about, but I'm going to include Judah, Benjamin, and Levi for the reasons that I'm going to start adding them to the lesson from this point on, due to what we showed you guys about Greek, the Aegean region, Turkish regions, and all that type of stuff. And the research we've showed you in the past about us ruling Europe, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales, and all that type of stuff, right? So because of that, we're going to speak about, let me pull this up. I was going to show y'all a video with a brother that corroborates all of our information from about 25 years ago, but instead we are going to start with the PowerPoint, and we might do the video next week because it's pretty long. So just to kind of run things back for everybody in case anybody ever missed the other videos. So we started with rediscovering the tribe of Dan, right? We proved that they were a seafaring people. They lived as true nomads. They basically moved around since the beginning of them being a tribe, right? Like leaving Egypt and stuff like that. So they had a separate exodus, some of them that's documented, right? I've showed it. Panah from Ram Gadal Gabarium showed it. You know what I'm saying? Ariala from House of Bread has mentioned it. So it's involving a man named Calamus and another man that I can't remember at this time, but his name and stuff being used. So, but these brothers had their own Sardin, but they had their own separate exodus. It was a smaller exodus, if you will. Head guy was basically Calamus, and they went to Greece, right? Cyprus and then Greece. So if you look at the map, Cyprus is very close. If you look at historically, most people say that it was Danites that founded that land, officially with the name of Cyprus and everything like that. So because I guess it was uninhabited land before that, or land that didn't have a lot of people, just a couple Japhetites, if you will. So when they came over, it was basically considered their land after that. And then from there, they moved over to Greece, right? This is all documented information. So we started proving this stuff out. And of course, the rest of the tribe went to, went through the Exodus with Moses. They ended up with a small piece of land and then went and took Laish. And when you go to Numbers, you see that they got this tiny piece of land, but they had the second biggest tribe. Reason being is because historically, there's also proof that the guys that went to Greece end up coming back. So by the time Numbers happened, they were able to get I'm not going to say a full count of the tribe, but a lot more of the members of Dan were there once they started numbering the people, right? So again, this is a documented fact. And today, instead of just talking about the documents, I'm also going to give you guys every single one of the sources at the end of the lesson. So if you want the sources to look them up yourself, just stick around to the end. You know what I'm saying? Because you will get every single one of the sources. It's about maybe 3 pages of it. So yeah, stay tuned if that's what you're here for. So but yeah, so we went through that. Here, as you see, right, Dan was a people. They had 62,700 men of fighting age based on those numbers, right? So they were the second biggest tribe in that category. You feel me? So yeah, they go off. They have a splinter group of 605 Danites that go to Laish. That's not a lot. So the majority of their people were not, around. And then you see they leave, right? Damn near all of the tribe of Dan is gone by the time the Assyrians come on the scene, right? So when they take the 10 tribes, Dan is not there. So it's not really 10 tribes they take, it's really 9. You feel what I'm saying? Because Dan had already left. There's no documentation of Dan being one of the people that was taken into Assyria. And the reason why is because a lot of them had already established colonies in the Aegean, in the Greek, like around Japhet. So once they realized it was trouble, they just dipped and never came back. That's how it went, right? The rest of the Israelites having no place to go, they had to sit there and be taken into captivity. That's part of the punishment. So that's how that went. A lot of Israelites at this point teach that Dan got lost and was not a tribe anymore. But the fact of the matter is, according to the sources and according to history, they never stopped being a tribe. They've been a tribe the entire time, and they just changed their name, just like the rest of us did. You feel me? And a lot of them stayed within the same areas as us, even when it came to us being in the Greek world, right? And when I say us, I mean the Israelites that you have documented, like the Southern Kingdom, for example, Judah, Benjamin, Levi. You have Israelites that are in Tarshish, like Paul. That's where he's from, right? You have Israelites in Cappadocia. You have Israelites in Thessalonica. You have Israelites in Thrace. You have Israelites in all these different places, right? Miletus, a bunch of different places, right? All over the Aegean. So these people in these places are coming into contact with these, Danites that had already been there, right? At this time, they're Spartans, Lacedaemonians or Lacedaemonian, right? However you want to pronounce it. But they're those people, right? In the Lacedaemonians, they are, that's the real word for the Spartans. That's those people. And it's known that they are, before Lacedaemonian became their name, they were the Danin or the Dorian, right? And it's known that those people are the seafaring merchantmen of the tribe of Dan that started being, merchants in this Greek world. That was their first job when they got to the land. They were bringing things from Egypt that they got. So Egypt has a lot of fine silk, cotton, everything like that. If you know Mathatha was to this day, him being Israelite, because Egypt has such fine, quilt. The garment he made me, it's Egyptian cotton, because they still got good stuff. That's what they're here for. To be our slaves that give us good stuff. That's what all these different nations that got all these good products and all these good silks and all these good things that they make. In the kingdom, there's those things of us. That stuff they make in their culture to be good stuff for the Israelites at the end of the day, right? So we use their stuff, and it's very good feeling material. You know what I mean? So this is the type of stuff that Dan was taking over to Japhet, and they're bringing them those things. They're bringing them artifacts, bringing them all type of different stuff from our land and from Egypt, and that's what their first job was, to be merchantmen, right? Go back and forth on their boats, and that's what they did. So the Egyptians had a name for them because of their language. They called them the Denian, right? So these Denian tribe of Dan, right? It all means seafaring merchantmen of Dan. That's who they are. That's what these guys were, right? So, that's where we started the history, right? I showed you guys a little AI overview, showed you when it talks about them coming to the land for the first time. A lot of brothers were hitting me up talking about, well, that don't make sense because Israel left the Exodus around this, then the third. And it's like, well, there's documentation that Dan left into their own Exodus, a lot of them, right? And then some of them left with Moses, and then the rest of them came back. By the time of Numbers, that's how they ended up with a big-ass tribe, but they got little-ass land. That's why they went and tried to take Laish, and they went to Greece after that because they never had enough land for the amount of people that they had. That's the facts, right? So they're also the first tribe to go heavily into idolatry, right? So when you go into the book of Kings, you see that they have a shrine, an idolatrous shrine in the land or territory of Dan at that time, right? Because they already had their own Poseidon and all that type of stuff before Zeus is invented, because this is before Judah really gets to the land, right? So Poseidon was their version of a god. For those of you guys that don't know and weren't watching that video we did, right? So Samson is a Greek version of Hercules, who is what? Samson is a Danite. So, Hercules is a Greek version of Samson. So Samson's a Danite. Hercules is a version of him. They do the same exact things. Their life goes the same exact way. The women that they dated both had similar names. It's just one is, I think she's Philistine, and the other one is a Greek version of that, right? So, and then you've got like an apotheostic version of that, which is Thor. Just like with Judah, you have the apotheostic version of that, which is Zeus, and you have the apotheostic version of Poseidon, which is Dan, right? Of Dan, which is Poseidon. And if you look at the history, he was the first man god over there in Greece with the Olympians. The Olympians were the Danite version of the Greek gods, right? That the Japhetites ended up having to succumb to after the Dorian invasion, which we talked about, right? And the Titans, which were the gods of the Japhetites, were the gods that lost. So if you know anything about Greek mythology, that's even how the story goes. The Titans ruled the earth before, aka the Titans ruled the land of Japhet, and then the Olympians come and tear up everything. So that's how that goes. And then they have to try to make some super Titan named Cronus it was Cronus, to try to defeat the three main Israelites, if you will, the three main Greek gods, Olympians, which is Dan, Judah, and who else was it? You had Dan, which is Poseidon, Judah, which is Zeus, and then Hades, which is either going to be Ephraim, Asher, or Zebulun. I haven't figured out which one, but whichever one had the most land, had went there and had the most people during that time, during the Dorian invasion, that would be the third group. So that's how that worked. And those three gods end up being the people that, reigned there with that. So that's that. And then you got Hercules, which is Samson, and all type of different stuff that we could go into, but we went into it in those other lessons. So if you missed it, sorry, this ain't what that's about. But Greek mythology basically started with Israelites. This is a fact. AI could show you. It starts with this thing called apotheosis, and it only starts after the fall of the Japhetites to the Dorians, after the Danites came. So once they changed their name to the Dorians, and after the Dorian invasion, once other Israelites get there, we defeat Japhet, take over their land, and then make them succumb to our stuff. In which, because Dan was already there, they mixed a little bit of that with what Japhet already had, which is how the Olympians became who they were in the first place. Japhet being a people that worship people, right? Apotheosis, just like the Egyptians did, and they deify them. They did that with us, which is how these gods came about, right? Which is why I could tell you who is who and all that type of stuff. So Dan and Judah, and their entrance into the land, which is actually how we're going to talk about their migration patterns. That's the main thing this is about today. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about the migration patterns of these groups. All right. So, hey, what's up, Pops? But so the migration patterns of the Israelites, the tribe of Dan, right? Israelites being Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, from Israel to Arsareth, but explaining also this Greek and European history that no other camp seems to want to go over besides our brothers at Ram Gadal and House of Bread. Feel what I'm saying? So we are going to go over that. And like I said, I'm going to give you sources at the end of the class. So y'all know this isn't some stuff that we just made up. This is information that is, viable, credible, and you can find it. So we showed you guys a couple of things there. Dan in the Southern Kingdom captivities with Edom and how they get transferred around and start moving to different places because of Roman rule, if you will, right? With the Edomites came through. So we have the Peloponnesian War, which is another fight between us and Japhet. Japhet tries to come back and fight us again in the Peloponnesian War. We end up whooping their ass in that war. And then we got to fight Edom. Edom, knowing that we're weak because of the Peloponnesian War, they end up sweeping in. And this is the same time, right after the Peloponnesian War, is when Alexander and his father Philip, or rather Philip and Alexander, start taking over, right? Well, Philip's daddy did it first. So they come into the land. They come from Thrace, basically take over Macedon, start taking that stuff over, write themselves into the history, right? Just like they do every other time. This is the first time they did it. So they come in as the Veneti. They write themselves into the history after they take over Macedon and make it seem like they already been there and always been there. And then, they take over the rest of it from Macedon as the barbarians. So if you go into the history, the reason they're the barbarians of Macedon is because Greek history didn't forget to explain that they weren't the original people of Macedon. They were barbaric people from another land, right? And if you were to look them up on Wikipedia, it reads as if they've been in the land, and it writes their family in as people that are related to Hercules, which is Samson, which we know isn't true because Samson would be a Danite, and Alexander and his daddy are Edomites, so they're not related in the way that you think. You feel me? Not anymore anyway. So that's how that goes. But once the Edomites come into the land and they fight us and they win, we go into captivity, right? And you see the Lacedaemonians and the Maccabees, right, come into contact with each other in First Maccabees 12 and 21, right? So that's that situation. That's how that happens. They had already known each other. They remind themselves of each other in that account. And, even ByzantineLegacy.org, which if you know anything about the Byzantine Empire, that's us too, far removed from Greece, right? Both groups. So we've talked about that, and it's going to be on this PowerPoint as well. You're going to see it in just a minute. So we started also talking about Vikings because a lot of you Israelite Negroes out there don't know that the Vikings originally were Israelites. They started with the tribe of Dan. This is why I have no longer claimed myself to be of the tribe of Gad for the last couple of years. I've called myself a Danite because my family is part of the people, the niggas, that went to these lands, specifically over there from England and then to Denmark and then back to England again, which is how I get my last name, Latham, in the first place, right? It's a Scandinavian last name from Denmark, which means we was niggas that was in Denmark, right? And it's also a name that's from England. So proves that we went from Denmark and then came back to England with the group that did that in that Danite or Dane invasion, if you will, right? And that's how we end up getting there. There's a Latham town in England where they had barns and merchants, and that's literally where my family gets their last name from. So, yeah. But here we go. So we also got the Gaelic, German, which also got a little bit of that in me too. This goes back to Hebrew, which we showed you guys that as well, right? The origin of Gaelic, Irish, Scottish, Gaelic, and Manx were originally the same language, but diverged over 1,000 years, right? There's much evidence to suggest that Gaelic and Hebrew are similar, and no people in Germany, Ireland, or Scotland speak this language today. Gaelic, being a Celtic language, shares similarities to other Indo-European languages that other Indo-European languages do not share, meaning this is something that did not develop with the other Indo-European languages. So though they label Gaelic as an Indo-European language today because of the region it was found in, it's technically not an Indo-European language. It's more of a Proto-Sinaitic language when you break it down, right? This is a fact, and it comes from originsofnations.org, okay? So we talked about that as well, proving that the Celtics spoke a Hebrew language, right? And many brothers, including myself, have showed you that Celtics were Israelites. And we're going to see a little bit of that in this particular PowerPoint as well. And it will show you the migration patterns of these people from Israel, right? With the little help of ChatGPT and some sources. So it will prove to you that they are indeed Israelites. So these Celtic people, right, that you think got blonde hair and stuff like that, but you like wondering why they all got braids and stuff, Yeah, it's because they didn't have blonde hair. And those that did it because they had the same tradition as the Vikings. You know what I'm saying? Those of them that dyed their hair blonde. And it wasn't their hair, it was a dye, which we've talked about. And it may be in this particular thing, but if not, I could Google it real quick and explain it to you. Very Googleable, easily Googleable fact, right? That the Viking blonde color hair was not their, literal hair color. It was a dye that they used with different paste and flower dyes and stuff like that, right? Some of it even would involve animal piss. So that's how they would do it. They would have the options of dyeing it red, blue, or blonde. Blonde would be for the people that had wealth or any type of status. Red would be for the big time warlords and stuff like that. And the blue or the black, if their hair wasn't black already, would just be for a regular, person in war, right? Blue sometimes could be for different tribesmen in their status, if they have rank above a regular person between somebody that's a warlord, and then they have the guys with the blonde hair at the top. So that's how it went. But white people don't like to explain that to you, because then it would make it seem like they weren't the dudes, because they don't got naturally blonde hair, which in fact they were not until they got to Norway after we did, right? And then they ended up going from Norway, because they couldn't take us up out of there, to Sweden, which is why most of the crackers in Sweden have light brown or blonde hair, because that's where all the blondes got kicked to. You feel me? They were not allowed in Denmark or Norway until we left both of those places and went back to England in the 700s. So again, we'll talk about all that. It's in this lesson, but that's just a little history for you guys too. So we talked about the Dub Gael and the Finn Gael, right? The Dub Ginty and the Finn Ginty. So when you go into Irish history, this is what they would call the black people, right? So yes, there was white people in Ireland and Scotland, always had the barbarians in the mountains. That's where Esau lived at, right? In the mountainous parts of those lands. But Dublin is called Dublin because Dub Ginty or Dub Gael people took over that land and made it their capital. They were Anglo-Saxons, and then they became Vikings, right? After the Anglo-Saxons were kicked back into the mainland. So what ends up happening is Dublin, or Dubland, land of dub, land of black, right? Land of dark, becomes the capital for these niggas in Scotland, in Ireland, right? And then you have Scotland. Scot mean a rendition of Scotia, which is the black queen, right? That was married to Lacedaemon, the man who was a Danite that Lacedemonians get their name from. So his wife, Scotia, is where Scotland gets her name from. It means it's a rendition of swarth, right? And it means black. So Scotland and Ireland and Dublin are all supposed to mean black land. So when we ask those questions and show you those things, right? That's the etymology. When you Google it now, it might say something different, but ChatGPT, shout out to AI, is going to show you what the facts is. In a little etymon.org will do the same thing if you guys looked up on there, and we'll show you. So, but yeah, let me get back to it. So we also showed you guys from books like the origin of the Anglo-Saxon race, that the original Anglo-Saxons and the original Vikings were, black people, right? This is page 113. If you go to page 111, it would explain to you the things about the Anglo-Saxons being black. So that's just for y'all. You could get it for free PDF, right? Pages 113 and pages 111. 111 explains the black Anglo-Saxon origin. And then by the time you get to 113, it explains the black Viking origin, right? And it tells you that the black Vikings were indeed called the Danes, right? Danes. So Danes are the Danites that moved from England to Scandinavia, right? So it's the land of Dan. Every time they left, they leave their name because according to the biblical prophecy, there will be an adder in the path, like a snake, like a viper. That's what an adder is, right? And if you're thinking about a path in a viper, it would leave a trail, right? It ain't talking about a paved road. We didn't have that back then. Talking about a dirt road, right? Or a road with rocks and gravel. if you have a snake that's slithering through that, there's going to be a trail left, especially a viper. They're not small snakes, right? So that's what you got to understand about that. They leave a trail everywhere they go, and their name was the trail. So you've got all the renditions of Dan. You've got Dawn. You've got you've got Dub. You've got Den. You've got Dan. You've got Dun. You've got yeah, I think that's really it. So you've got the Dan Esther River. You've got the Dawn River. You've got the damn, there's another one. Just forgot. But there's these rivers that basically stretch through Europe, right? That they were known, the Danes were known for selling Edomites on, right? Or Slavic people, if you will, which we talked about that in the lesson as well. So we showed you guys pictures. On the right is the Black Danes that invaded France, right? Under William the Conqueror and England, right? In 1066. You see here on the left, you've got the black image of William the Conqueror, and you've got the fake image of William the Conqueror. So you've also got the coin of the nigga with the big ass beard and everything like that, looking like Judge Joe Brown, right? You got the big Judge Joe Brown mustache, and he got a beard. So you've got the black kings of Scandinavia and the Netherlands, right? So a lot of them got names that me and my pops got, like Eric, right? This nigga right there. And then you see the fake images of Eric. You feel me? So you've got what's this brother name? Harold right here on the right, and then White Harold on the left. I forget this dude name. I think it's Charles. This is Christopher, and this is Eric. So but we talked about the Byzantine Empire, how we got over there, showed you people from the Byzantine Empire. You got Constantine, right? Yes, he was a nigga. Although y'all don't like him, you know what I'm saying? You got to look up why he did what he did and why he had to succumb to different things. It wasn't all his fault. Yeah, but he still was a punk, you know, a BAN. If you can read between the lines, you get. But yeah, so you got Emperor Alexius I, big brother, and then you got Emmanuel I, the coon, right, with his wife Maria of Antioch. So one of the Antiochians, right, marries a brother, one of the emperors of Rome, right? And then you got a mixed nigga, like what was this dude's name again? Julian. You got Paul, some of the patriarchs, fathers, Saint Clement, this Peter, right? So these are all images we showed you guys. You got Russia, right? You got Ivan the Terrible. You got Joanne of Austria. You got King James' daughter, the Queen of Bohemia, Elizabeth. You got Saint Maurice, the most famous knight in French history, right? And then you got Saint Vladimir, the man and the king of Russia and Ukraine in the Czech Republic that ordered the Russian icons, right? So all them niggas that's in that book that you guys talk about, it was made by this guy, Saint Vladimir, okay? This is Saint Vladimir and his two sons, Boris and Geb, who were killed by their other brother, the accuser, right? And then you got English kings and French kings, right? Told you guys, according to the internet, the Bourbons got Latham ancestry. So these two niggas right here, or 3, 4, these are the what's homie name? Louis. These are the King Louis. So they are related to me supposedly somehow through this nigga right here, Henry, whose father was last name Latham, allegedly. So, but yeah, you got King James, you got Louis the 14th, Edomites, how he used to show them all hairy and stuff like that, right? With us on the coats of arms, you got a black woman there, black man there, hairy Edomite there, black Scotland, so different kings. Fergus the first legendary king of Scotland. You got Kenneth III, you got King Malcolm III, Malcolm I, of course, who we did a whole lesson on. Yeah. And then this is Robert the Bruce or Robert the Black. Yeah, so here we go. Now we're going to talk about what we came to talk about today. I just want to go over that just so y'all can see it and stuff like that, right? Y'all can hear about how we got here. So now the migration patterns of the kingdom of Judah and the tribe of Dan. So it'll start with Egypt, Israel, then go to the Aegean, Greece, Italy, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Scandinavia, Russia, Africa, and now America. So we're going to start with the kingdom of Judah. When it comes to the kingdom of Judah's migration, it's important to understand that, Israel, Judah, Egypt, that's where they go, right? They go to Egypt, North Africa, the Greek Aegean, Rome, Western Mediterranean, Gaul, Britain, Ireland, Scotland, Atlantic, and then the Atlantic slavery system. So they become African-American, Jamaican, Bahamian, Trinidadian, St. Lucian, people from the Virgin Islands, and the Haitian populations today, right? So, by the way, ChatGPT told me that. Don't tell me how. I don't know, but I don't know if he looked up IUIC crap while it was giving me the answer, but that's what it told me. So you got 1200 to 930 BC. Israelites starting population. House of Israel, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, distributed amongst Israelite territories, right? And then Dan gets smaller lands, and most migrate to other territories, along with other Israelite tribes from the northern kingdom, right? So you got 930 to 586 BC. Judah, Benjamin, Levi consolidate together. So this is around the time that the southern kingdom is going to be formed, right? Between this time period. So in around 900 is around, I think, either 930 or 900 is around the time of Solomon and stuff like that, and him passing and everything. So southern kingdom, northern kingdom, the split, all that type of stuff happens. All the kings in the book of Kings, and then you got this. So let me make sure. All right. Trying to make sure something. All right. So now, you got, after the political division of the kingdoms, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi increasingly form a southern Israelite population complex, while absorbing some of the northern kingdom Israelites, but leaving the majority of the population in Samaria alone, due to the northern kingdom being exiled into the Assyrian lands and later Arsareth, right? So, as you know, this is also around the time period. 722 is when northern kingdom Israelites are finished being taken to Assyria. So it starts around 726, and then it ends around 722 to 720, right? That's when they stop being taken, and they get switched over with heathen from the Assyrian population, right? And their captives and stuff like that. So the main reason we were told to leave the northern kingdom alone from the southern kingdom wasn't just because they were heathenistic. It was because them niggas wasn't even the Israelites. A lot of them was heathen. You feel me? So that's why by the time you get to the time of Jesus, a lot of the people that were in the southern kingdom didn't even fool with the people up north, because a lot of those people for years have not been Israelites. That's a fact. I went over it in our Assyrian lesson, and even the Assyrian video off of Kings and Generals told you that they were replacing Israel, the Israelite northern kingdom population, with slaves and Assyrians. So the northern kingdom then goes from Assyria not back to Israel, but to Arsareth. So the majority of them had left. But as I was telling you before, when it comes to Dan wasn't even there. They weren't even included. They were in another land, Greece, thriving at that, right? As the Bible says they would, they'd be aligned as well. They're just like Judah, right? They're going to be a king. They're going to rule in their stead. And they did that every single place that they went, just like Judah. Sometimes even whooping Judah's ass, and they went back and forth, right? Which we'll talk about. If you know about the Danes and the Anglo-Saxons, that's literally what that is. The two lions welcoming against each other. Just crazy. So yeah, and then us like joining with them, and then being a snake as the Vikings and biting them on the heel, making them fall off their horse, and they lose rulership for a time. This was called the Dane Law, right? So when we took over, acted like Christians, and then decided not to be Christians one day, and then just burned everything, and then just decided to draw a line, an imaginary line in England, in Europe, right? And say, this is our stuff, and we're going to do what we want here, Dane Law territory, and y'all can have Christianity over there. So the prophecy came true in Europe, right? This is stuff people don't talk about. They got all these prophecies in the Bible that they don't know about, or that they know have to happen, but they don't talk about when they happened, or when they have to happen, or when they're going to happen, because they don't even know. That's how it goes, right? So that's why we're here to explain these things to you in the camps that have been doing this stuff, like us, Ram Gadol Gabarium, the House of Bread, right? We've been trying to explain this stuff to you and give you guys the history so that y'all can put this stuff together. Because a lot of y'all claiming Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and you niggas is Danites. You didn't know, right? So, yeah. So that's what happens. They absorb them. They go into Arsareth, right? So, migration. The pattern would be Judah plus Benjamin plus Levite families. They come from Jerusalem and then the southern kingdom, right? They go into Egypt, North Africa, right? And it's going to give you timelines for this type of stuff. Then into the Mediterranean diaspora. Mediterranean diaspora is when they start going into Greece. So it's going to show you certain time periods when they start going. This is BC too, where they start leaving Jerusalem in small spurts, going from Egypt to North Africa, right? And then from North Africa, they start traveling to the Mediterranean, okay? And they do this as, just like when you go into Judges and you go into the book of Ezekiel and you see that the tribe of Judah was working with the Philistines and stuff. And they were, merchants basically for them, if you will, right? And with them. So when this is happening, a lot of them are staying over there where they're going, right? They're being called Philistines and Phoenicians and all different type of stuff. They're not even being called Israelites from the tribe of Judah no more, or Benjamin or Levi. Then they get a broad term Judean. That's where this comes from. That's where the originality of it is. Really comes from the Mediterranean people calling these broad group of Israelites Judean, right? And the ones that didn't call them and refer to them as Judeans refer to all of us as Phoenician. And I talked about that in the last lesson that we spoke about in this, regarding this whole thing. I showed it on ChatGPT, how it all happened with the name change, and it's going to explain a little bit of that stuff in this lesson too. So, but yeah, so they go from there to the Mediterranean diaspora. It says, important fact, they did not migrate to these places as separated by tribes, right? So they didn't go to these places like, hey, all right, Benjamin on this boat, Judah on this boat, Levi over here. They were all consolidated together. And once you get to the land, it ain't about what tribe you in. It ain't no tribal separation. Ain't no tribal tents on the left and the right and the sides. It's none of that. They just there. You feel me? So this is also why in history there isn't much documentation of them being there. You only see Jews or Jewish people or Jewish population or Judeans or Israelites or Phoenicians. And then it says broad term for Israelites in Levant people, or it'll just say Levant people in general, right? Like that's what you got to understand regarding that. That's how that goes because of the way that they would document people. It wasn't as specific as we do in America. So, and ChatGPT explained that to us in the lesson as well. We also showed sources for it. So, again, if y'all want to go back to any of these lessons, feel free. We're not going to go that deep in this one because that would take too long, but just mention it so y'all can go back and see. Also, continued Kingdom of Judah's migration. So, you got the 8th century, right? BCE, the Egyptian and North African gateway. All right. So, a lot of y'all don't know a lot of the Southern Kingdom, the way that they get to Turkey, the way that they get to North Africa, the way that they get to Egypt, the way that they get to the Mediterranean, right, is through a gateway that started in Egypt, went from North Africa, and allowed them to get on ports through Libya and stuff like that into the Mediterranean. You understand? So it says Egypt was the first gateway city for the Southern Kingdom migration. It begins in the 8th century BC. We see that by the time Christ is here, it's still a city that they used to hide and as a gateway to other places, right? As I said, Libya and so forth is going to explain exactly what these places were. So the possible structure is they go from Jerusalem, right? Or Judea, through the Sinai, right? Through Egypt. Then they have 2 directions they can take. There's a western route that would take them through Egypt, through Cyrenaica, through Libya, right? Carthaginian world, which is over there in the Mediterranean, right? Then they could cross over and settle in Sicily, which we will talk about a lot in this lesson. A lot of y'all know about black people founding Sicily. Y'all talk about the Sicilians being niggas and stuff like that and being related to black folks and how the white Italians don't like them and this, that, and the third, right? And nobody goes into the history of why or how or what black people was the people that founded that land. It was us, right? So we're going to talk about that today too. But they would go through Sicily, then Sardinia, Iberia, then Atlantic Europe. Or they could go a northern route, right? Which would take them through Egypt, through Alexandria, then to Cyprus, right? Then to the Rhodes, the Greek islands, mainland Greece, Macedonia, Rome, Italy, and they could travel up through Italy, right? This is where Judah, Benjamin, and the Levite groups can intersect with the Danites, right? Through the northern route. And this is where that happens, okay? Hope you guys are tracking so far. You got to see a map sometimes, though. What percentage of blacks are you calling Danites? Well, I mean, I would say that they are black. I'm a Danite. I wouldn't know the percentage, but according to the Bible, right, there's no end to all the people, and Dan was the second biggest tribe. They're a Northern Kingdom tribe that technically had Southern Kingdom territory and Northern Kingdom territory, so there's no reason for them to look different because they didn't go anywhere with the Northern Kingdom. They weren't put into Assyrian captivity. They've always been around Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. When they were in captivity to the Romans, the Lacedaemonians were right with them, writing letters in the book of Maccabees, remember? So they're going to be niggas. What percentage of niggas? I don't know, but it's a large percentage of niggas because they're the second biggest tribe. So there's a lot of niggas claiming to be Benjamin, but they really could be Dan. They have a bigger chance of being Dan because Dan is a much bigger tribe. Do you understand what I'm saying? So hope y'all get that, right? Niggas claiming Benjamin, and they might not be Benjamin. Niggas claiming Judah, they might not be Judah. You feel what I'm saying? Some of y'all don't like that. That's what it is. Whether you like it, understand it, believe it or not. And like I said, there's no end to all the people. And the people, well, they were the second biggest of the people. So they can't be gone now, contrary to popular belief. Now, we've got the Kingdom of Judah migration continued. You got the 700s to the 200s BC. You've got their entrance and settlement into the Greek world through this gateway that we spoke about, right? We've also got what you call a map. It shows you the gateway, right? Diaspora during the Hellenistic period. I did not make this map. It says route of Jews from Palestine, right? And mind you, they say Palestine because this is an old-ass map, and it wasn't called Israel back then. You dig? So this diaspora of the Hellenistic period, right? They've got Jaffa, which is where Dan was at, right? And of course, they're going to add their migration into this thing. So you've got that. You could go this way in all the ways that they would go, right? Or you could go into Egypt through Alexandria, like I just told you, and you could basically travel the same way from the Alexandrian ports. You understand? So it just showed you exactly where it would be, what cities they would dock at, and all of that stuff. This is historically documented, and like I said, I'm going to give you the sources later. It took a lot of work. You're going to listen and pay attention. So you got Alexandria, right? Big spot. That's why it's got the arrow there. They would take it from there and then move their behinds on out of there, right? Or they could just travel into North Africa, which is how you niggas from the Southern Kingdom start moving over there. It wasn't just 70 AD. The reason a million of y'all knew y'all could travel through there and get to land, just like Dan knew they could travel through here and get to land, is because you already had people there. You already had settlements that were known about to the Israelites that were over here in Jerusalem. You feel me? So I hope y'all understand that, right? Now, this portion of the migration chain has substantial historic grounding. By the Hellenistic period, Israelite populations were present across the Greek and Aegean world. Archaeological evidence and ancient references indicate Jewish communities in mainland Greece and the Aegean from around 3rd century BC onward. So these are full communities, full-on communities by 3rd century, right? And the only reason it's being documented in 3rd century is because, 300 BC is when Alexander the Greek was on the scene. So, the crackers like to document things. They're in power at this time. That's when they're going to start documenting. But you best believe we had the people in the land, in civilizations, in communities way before that. Historically, it's documented from the 700s, which is also ironic because that's when the Peloponnesian War happened. And we won, so we had to have ample people there to beat all them damn big ass Samoans and stuff. You feel me? And I showed you it's the Samoans because they got the same damn names of the nations and stuff like that when you get in there. So, and we showed you their migration patterns and all that stuff. We still got the Japhet lesson coming soon. Stay tuned. So, Kingdom of Judah migration continued. Therefore, in the alternative reconstruction, Judah plus Benjamin and Levi could enter the same broad Aegean world occupied by descendants of the Danian associated populations, the Danaans, Dorians, Ionians, Macedonians, Thracians, which are all of the tribe of Dan, without claiming that these were all originally Israelites. Why? Because they wasn't being called Israelites in that land. That's why they originally became, or to the Israelites in the land, they become Gentile, right? Because they weren't even claiming Israelite heritage. They stopped that. They complete Greek. So they didn't have to claim original Israelite, right? Again, shout out to the chat. So over generations, intermarriage, conversion, assimilation, and enslavement, military services after the enslavement and before the enslavement, political migration, which is, you know, a lot of what Judah was doing, and then could create mixed populations. And when I say mixed populations, I don't mean just of Israelites in Japhet or Israelites in Edom, but of Israelites in amongst different tribes, not within their tribal stuff no more, right? Only dealing with other people, right? You feel me? So Israelites less occupied by tribe and more occupied with survival. This is how the Israelites became Gentile/Greek in the New Testament. It begins here. All right. So Kingdom of Judah migration continued. This is the AI Greek intersection model. Okay. Pay attention to this. It says the Greek major world intersection. Here is where I would connect the 4-tribe model. Dan, branch. I know you can't see this, so I'm going to read it to you. I'm sorry because it didn't stay in the box. It says maritime tradition, proposed Danian-Dauna connection, Aegean population, networks. Possible participation in the post-Bronze Age Greek ethnogenesis, which we know wasn't possible. It actually happened. We read it, right? Dorian associated populations in Sicily, Italy, I can't speak. In Sicily, Italy, and Adriatic, right? So, then we go. It says Judah, Benjamin, Levi branch, Southern Kingdom, Egypt, then Eastern Mediterranean diaspora, from Alexandria to Cyprus to the Aegean Islands, mainland Greece, Macedonia, and Rome, right? Then the branches meet again through the Aegean commerce, Sicily, Southern Italy, which is Sicily, Rome, Gaul, right? If you've ever watched Spartacus, you should know about Gaul, right? That dude Crixus, right? Just like Spartacus is supposed to be a nigga, Crixus is supposed to be a big, strong Danite Negro, okay? The Rhine frontier, which was mixed. This is where the Celtics become who they are. Their tradition was what they are. This is where the Druids become what they are, where a lot of the Masons get their knowledge from, right? These are all Israelites from Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Dan, Simeon, Asher, and Ephraim, because by then some of them had been in the land too, just from them being people that was helping them, the Philistines migrate and stuff. Always being called the Phoenicians, right? So, and then we go from the Rhine to Britain, and then of course beyond there. So it says this gives you something closer to a braided migration theory rather than 4 tribes walking in one line, which is how some of you niggas seem to think when you explain things. Like we all had to be separated all the time. And just that ain't the case. Even now. Ain't nothing new under the sun. And you see that we ain't all together now. So you damn sure better believe we wasn't all together then. It just ain't like that. It never was, and it ain't gonna be to the kingdom. Right? Really in the kingdom, it ain't gonna be like that. We might have tribal separations as far as territory, but we still all gonna be a conglomerate, and we're gonna be happier then. So it's gonna be even easier to do what we was doing in the Greek world, make it a melting pot between the tribes, right? So 300 BC, AI model continued to 200 CE, right? Says Sicily becomes important again. Mind you, it says to 200 CE because it's talking about after BC. 200 years after Christ, niggas are still in Sicily thriving. So Rome got northern Italy, white people, right? And we're in southern Italy until we lose that war, which we'll talk about one day, right? Sicily could be one of the most important nodes in your larger theory. Imagine the Mediterranean population network like this. You've got the Levant, Egypt, Cyrenaica, Carthage, Sicily, southern Italy, and Rome. Okay? So this is what you would consider that at that time. It says at the same time, the Levant would have Cyprus, like it would be the Levant, and then Cyprus, and then Rhodes, and then Greece, and then Sicily. Therefore, Sicily is a potential meeting place for both populations. So you've got, let's say this is the southern kingdom. You'd come from Egypt, Cyrenia, Carthage, Sicily, southern Italy, and Rome. Then you've got Dan, Cyprus, Rhodes, Greece, Sicily, right? So we meet up a lot in Sicily. We're able to band together in Sicily, become one again in Sicily. And that's a lot of what happened. That's how that place became so rich with our type of culture and our skin color. So, Dan associated maritime peoples. It says Greek/Dorian populations. Then you've got plus the Judean diaspora, which is Judah, Benjamin, Levi, plus the Phoenicians, which is when they both conglomerated together for the first time and were under one label as that name, which is why I tell you all the time, Hannibal was indeed an Israelite because he's a Phoenician, but all the characteristics he had was of an Israelite. So probably the tribe of Judah, but also could have been of the tribe of Dan or Benjamin, right? And yeah, but it's during the same time period that we are being called Phoenicians. You've got native Sicilian populations. You've got North Africans. Why? Because they also were dealing with us as well, and we were dealing with them. So some of us are mixed in with those people in those lands, which is why that's mentioned in the book of Isaiah 11. Because according to the history that a lot of you niggas don't look up, we're there, right? So we could enter one another there, right? Encounter, Salaki. We could encounter, I guess, and that other stuff too, one another there. But I would not assign every Sicilian group to an Israelite tribe, but Sicily absolutely belongs in a corridor model because it's a geographical position between Eastern Mediterranean, North Africa, Italy, and Western Mediterranean, which are all places the Israelites were documented. Okay? Now, AI model continue. I know you can't see this, so I'm going to read it, of course. Rome creates the Western Migration Highway. Okay? So Roman period is critical. Once Judean populations were spread throughout the Roman world, the potential migration network becomes Judah or Judea, right? Then they go from there to Alexandria. Then they go from there to Greece, then to Rome. Then we become big in southern Gaul. Then we start being Etruscans and Celts over there in the Rhine corridor or the Rhone corridor at the time. It becomes Rhine, and then we go to Rome and Britain, right? And then from there, like, you know, the GB and all that stuff, Ireland and everything like that, Scotland, Wales, you know, France and all that stuff. So Judea, or they've got this model, right? Judea to North Africa, which is they're counting Egypt and Alexandria, right? Then through Sicily, Italy, Gaul, and Britain. So now it's going to explain to you that Britain also was a meeting place, which is why we have such rich history in that land, the land of the covenant, right? Britain, okay? The land of covenant peoples. You've got the first name of the capital there, England, right? Angel land, and the land of angels, right? Which we know ourselves to be. A place that we would, you know, liken to heavenly places if we were like these big black Christian community out there, which is kind of what we were, right? So then you got, this is where the population history becomes extremely complicated. A Judean individual living in Rome, Gaul, might have been religiously Jewish, ethnically Judean, Greek speaking, a Roman citizen, and married a cracker. And to have descendants who later became Christian, as I just said, right? Several generations later, the descendants might no longer be identifiable as Israelites or in Jewish sources at all, like people last name Latham, We ain't labeled as Israelites. We're labeled as Scandinavian or Black Knights in England. So it's like, dang, like those are names we're given that, and now it's Black, African American, and all this other stuff. But it's telling you what it started as, right? You could have been religiously Jewish, ethnically a Judean, meaning that's your ethnicity, but you spoke Greek because of where you lived, like Paul. Paul telling you, I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, but the nigga's from Tarshish. This is literally Paul, religiously an Israelite, right? He's ethnically a Judean, but he's a Greek-speaking Greek citizen instead of Roman, right? And if he would have got married, it's possible he could have got married to the local population. So he could have got married to a Japhethite, could have got married to a Turk, could have got married to an Ottoman, could have got married to an Arab, could have got married to an Elamite, could have got married to an Israelite, an Edomite, anything. Like, they was all over there at that time. Greek is like America. You know what I'm saying? It's the first melting pot after Egypt. So where it wasn't just black people. So it's like, bam. And white folks didn't have to come at a different time. So it's like everybody was able to be in Greece all at once. Literally. So it gets complicated as far as the religious makeup and the ethnic tracking, because they didn't get specific when it came to documentation, the way that we would today to be able to fully document people. Does everybody understand that? Did what I just say make sense? Not. Or halak, or somebody that could say something.
Kind of the one.
All right, bet. The wild king. So, moving on. Says, yeah, I got that. Okay. All right. Now, Gaul as the second major greeting point. So, Crixus spot from, Spartacus. So, here, our Dan model and Judah, Benjamin, and Levi model potentially intersect again. From earlier reconstruction, Dan, who were the founders of Gaul, right? Dan the Danian, which, if you don't know anything, that was Caesar's biggest enemy when it came to the people not in Rome. His biggest enemy, hardest battles ever, was against the Gauls. So, but Dan or the Danian, they go to the Aegean, right? Then Italy in the Adriatic, and then the Hallstatt, Latinia, and then they become the Celts and the Gauls, right? You got Judah, Benjamin, Levi, alternative route. They go from Egypt to Greece, right? Rome, then the Roman Gaul, which is where they were at. So you got regular Gaul and Roman Gaul, which was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? Both populations are geographically present in the broader Western European zone. From there, Gaul, they go to Brittany, Britain, and Ireland, right? And Gaul, Rhine, so Judah, Brittany, Britain, Ireland, and then Dan, Rhine, lower countries, North Sea, which is going to be the Netherlands, right? And then you've got Britain again. And then they go to the Germanic frontier, Jutland, and then we get to where my family got their name from. So you see here, I wasn't lying and we wasn't lying when we told you that King James and them was from the Southern Kingdom, because even ChatGPT told you that the Southern Kingdom went to Gaul, Brittany, Britain, and Ireland. You know what I'm saying? So King James' daddy is a king of Scotland and Ireland, right? The fifth one. King James being the sixth, right? So that's how that all goes. He's the sixth because the other kings I showed you earlier, like Fergus and Malcolm and Kenneth, those are his ancestors. You did. So now, when it comes to Britain, where multiple streams could meet, under the alternative model, Britain receives multiple waves. You've got the Celtic Atlantic populations, right? And the Celtic population wasn't just Dan, it was Judah as well, Benjamin and Levi, okay? Which, yeah, that's how they go. So you got the Roman imperial population. So after the Byzantine Empire, right? And during the Byzantine Empire, you've got brothers there, right? the Holy Roman Empire. You got brothers and sisters in Britain as well, right? So, and we talked about that, you know, the first time we did this PowerPoint. So if you want to watch that video, go back and watch that one. Then you've got people arriving from Gaul, both of them, Roman Gaul and regular Gaul, right? Anglo-Saxon populations, which are Israelites as well. I'm going to bust my head, right? So when they start changing their name to Anglo-Saxon, they start going to Scotland, Ireland, and then coming back to Britain, and then going to France. That's them, right? Then you've got the Frisians and the continental North Sea people. So Edomites start getting to the land. Then you've got Dan coming to the land, right? And then you've got other Edomites, the Norwegian Norse, coming to the land. Then you've got more Danites, the Normans, okay? And then you've got, well, I think that's it after that. So yeah, it says, if small Israelite descended populations had entered any earlier Mediterranean or continental component, they could theoretically be carried into Britain without retaining a tribal name because they're going by these names, right? This is the principle. Ancestry can persist longer than ethonyms. And that's just how I go. Your ancestry or your etymology and the, you know, DNA is going to last longer than what you call yourself and what you know yourself as, because that could change at any moment. So this is how these populations go from speaking Hebrew and Greek to adopting other languages, changing surnames based on lands, occupation, and current living places, etc. Hypothetical family. A hypothetical family could look like this. A Judean could be Greek-speaking, Romanized Mediterranean, as far as the way that they feel and think and everything. They could be a Gallo-Roman, meaning a Gaulish Roman person. They could be a Romano-Briton. So they could be a Roman Black Briton, coon nigga, right? Or they could just be a Christian Brit. You feel? When it comes to Dan, they could be Adriatic Central European as the first ones. We could be Celtic Gaelic, or we could be British Celtic, and then we could become the North Germanic people, right? Both of us become Anglo-Saxons later on, right? Which we talked about in that lesson, the last lesson we did this. Then you got up in Jutland, Scandinavia, Dan becomes Danish Vikings. And then you got Anglo-Danish when we start messing with the crackers up there when the Norwegians get over there and stuff like that. These eventual populations merge. All right. Ireland and Scotland. Scotland was first. The Atlantic route would be Mediterranean, Iberia, Atlantic Gaul, Britain, Ireland, and the other route, Gaul to Britain, to Western Britain, to Ireland, and later, Ireland, and then Western Scotland. So this is the route Judah would have would take, rather, right? So once Judah goes from Greece to Britain, right, through Italy, Sicily is where it started, right? Once we get from Sicily to Brittany, right, we go, so that's Iberia, Atlantic Gaul, that's we get to Brittany, then Britain, Ireland, you know what I'm saying? Or another group went from Britain to Western Britain to Ireland, right? Then we take over Scotland. You feel? So, then migration and names. So, hope y'all understood. A lot of that was Judah. We included Dan too, but yeah, that's that. So, glad y'all are liking it. Hold on, let me see what he said. I didn't see. If you're saying that blacks are Danites, respectfully, I would have to disagree. I believe we are Judah. Yeah, but that's the thing. So blacks can't just be one tribe. That's not how it works. All of the tribes will be Black, Hispanic, or Native American. There's not blacks that are one tribe. I'm also going to explain that to you later. If you've been listening to what I've been saying about the confusion and stuff that's documented, right? Whether you want to believe it or not, it's documented. So you don't have to believe it, but it's still going to be true. You feel me? That there's confusion as far as the tribes because after a point in Greece, we stopped keeping count of it. Hence why they were just called Greek, right? And then given the opportunity to come back to the covenant. They didn't say, and you have to know your tribe, because a lot of them didn't. That's the fact. You feel? So just like we don't know our tribe now. The reason we don't know our tribe now is because we stopped caring about that stuff, especially if you were of the Greek population. a long time ago. So for you to say, I believe all the blacks will be Judah, that's going to be true because the Israelites are black, right? Black is Native American. If black people by, where we're stationed are the people in the neck of the enemy by most part, right? For the most part, then yeah, I would agree that they are black. But just like Benjamin also be black and Levi be black, right? West Indians are still black and Levites are still black. Dan is also black. You feel me? So my mom is Haitian. My daddy is like a black Native American nigga with a last name from Scandinavia. So we understand our family history to start in England, but the last name comes from Scandinavia. Danite migration explains why that happened. Because niggas went to Britain and then went to Scandinavia and then went back to Britain and then ended up in America. So the history matches up with the, family history of the last name and how we got it and where it came from. And then the Google search of where the last name comes from in the history on that you could find. Us being black knights and the fact that black knights are black people, that proves we were still black when we got back to England, when Edward and the Normans was around and stuff like that. So it's like there's history you could find out to see these people, and because they're Danes, I could say that we're Dan. That's what I would be. So, and I can still trace my family back to them. That's how I know that. So it's not like a thing where I can't trace it back. It literally traces back to that. So I would be a Dane, which would make me of the tribe of Dan. And last I checked, I'm black. So that means that the Danites could look like me, anybody in my family, any of the other brothers that watched these lessons and said, yeah, I'm a Danite too. And all of them been black. I ain't seen a Mexican looking brother that has said this crap to me yet, that think they a Danite based on the history me, Panah, and all them brought out. And if you seen Panah looked like my pops, and he claims to be Judah, if I'm not mistaken. But he's telling me his family originally comes from Scotland, so he might do research and change his tribe. You know what I'm saying? Panah, you know what I'm saying? But that's how I go. So, and I mean, there's proof, like I said, of Ephraimites being over there and all type of different stuff. So it's just not known what tribe is what. Even when it comes to us being in America, we got the 12 tribes chart. Yes, it's a spiritual thing. Yes, but based on the research I'm talking about here today, if you're of really even the people that went to Africa, that 12 tribes chart is not going to be a definite thing. It's still spiritual, like we tell you all the time. This research that I did does not make it any more definite. It don't make it definite at all. It makes it less definite, if you want to be honest with you. Right? But because the spirit bear witness, I ain't going to tell you that you're not what your spirit is telling you are. But I'm telling you, there's videos of me back in SOT, 7 years ago on Milk Monday telling you, I claim the tribe of Gad, but I might be a Danite. And then laughing about it with Judah on the screen. and Araya on the screen. Right? But I was saying it back then because my spirit always been telling me, hey, you might be Dan, bro. And then Dan. The history right here. So check it out. What is up with my mouse? What are you doing? Thank you. Goodness gracious. Now, all right. The Norse period continues or creates another connection. So once we get to Scandinavia, you've got Norway and Denmark. Northern Scotland, we go from there to the Hebrides, right? Then to Ireland, then the Irish Sea, and then Western Britain once we get back from Denmark, right? But this migration begins in the Rhine as well. So Danite and Dane association with the sea clans. It says they join or overlap with the Denyen, the people from Egypt, right? Or the Danuna, which Panah went into extensively in his lesson, right? I also think, I don't remember, but I feel like Yawasab might have mentioned them in some stuff too. So the Danuna maritime groups, right? And then after the Bronze Age, and also Ariella as well. And after the Bronze Age collapse, some are absorbed into Cyprus, the Aegean, Greek-speaking populations, right? Some become parts of the world that later produces the Dorian Greeks. The Dorian and the Aegean people move into Sicily and southern Italy, right? Sicily becomes a blend of native Sicilians, right, which is Japhet, Sicels, which is a mix of us, Elamians, which is like Ottoman Turkish Elamites that moved there, then the Greeks, which is, Japhet as Greeks that wasn't Sicilian people, right? And then Phoenicians, which is a mix of either actual Phoenicians or Israelites, being Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, or Dan, that are being called Phoenicians at this time due to lack of specific documentation, or Carthaginians, which is literally the same thing with them, with the Phoenicians. That's why it says / and then plus the Italic people, or people from Italy at the time, right? Whether they be white, black, or whatever. So related Mediterranean lines intersect with the Etruscans and northern Italy, which is how we know that we are also the Etruscans. And there's a book you can read on that called Black Celts, which is also in our sources. Okay, so northern Italy and Alpine routes feed into Hellstatt and Letane Celtic Gaelic worlds, right? Which we already showed you that we were the people in those places. That's us. Those are our names. So, and the language is ours. It's Hebrew. Okay, a language that the people there that live there now don't speak. But they have all the other Indo-European languages. Only language they don't have is the one that Japhet spoke and the one that we spoke, which is ironic because neither one of us are there anymore. So, yeah, Celtic, Gaelic, and Germanic borders people mix around the Rhine, Elbe, North Sea, and Jutland, right? So when I told you guys in that first video that we were the Juts, and some of y'all was like, what? The Juts? Yeah, it sounds like Jew, don't it? Stupid. But anyway, so centuries later, Scandinavians ethnogenesis produces the Danes, right? Which is the tribe of Dan, my peoples. So Dan is Sicily. We go from the Levant or Joppa, right? They become Phoenicians with the Phoenicians as we're in the Aegean, right? We're then just Greek and Dorian, and then we're Carthaginian. Then we start moving to North Africa and Italy, right? And then we're Etruscans, Celts at that time as well. Romans of Gaul, or Gaulish Romans, or Roman Gaulish, right? Or Roman Gaelic, I should say. And then Western Mediterranean trade later as Norman and Norse, or North people, right? So Norman, Northmen, right? Because the people from Scandinavia, my people. So Sicily could be one of the places where an older Eastern Mediterranean or Dorian connection population mixed with native Sicilian peoples and then fed into the Italian, Etruscan, Roman, and later Norman history. So reason why the Etruscans don't always look all the way black is because them niggas is a little bit of Japhet too, and whatever else we was mixing with that decided to come with us when we left there and became Etruscans in the Rhineland, right? So the irony is that, which is probably Edomites there too, because they was already there. Them folks that look like, the Magomedovs and stuff, them Asian-looking, Italian, the Hun white-looking folks that live in the mountains with the hairy, that be, hugging the bears and stuff with no clothes on in the snow. They was there too. And, some of y'all niggas like women like that because I've seen you. I'm in Tennessee now. I seen it. So, yeah, anyway, the irony is that Sicily later reconnects to the Norse story through the Normans, right? That's William the Conqueror, the brother that I showed you guys earlier on that stained glass with the black skin and the big old black knight armor. Yeah. So that's William the Conqueror. He's the leader of the Normans, right? People that have last name Norman, like Brian Norman, the boxer that got his behind whooped by Devin Haney a couple months ago, he would be a Norman, somebody related to this people, right? That's where his last name come from. It's not a slave last name. It's a Scandinavian last name. Black people that have it mean that they was theirs from the jump, right? That's how it goes. Typically, if you was on a plantation with a Scandinavian last name, there's proof out there that you can find that the slave master took your last name in order to take the rights that you had from, coming over here, because most of them came over here with their own stuff. So, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, All right. Story through the Normans, who were Norse descended, which, pause. We already kind of talked about that before. Me and Knock did, I think last year, 2 years ago, something like that, when we talked about the Code Noir and the Black Codes, or the, you know what I'm saying, stuff from France that started from France and then came over to Louisiana once they moved over there. And the free Black people, they got to come over here on boats, not enslaved. So that would be, you know, people that a lot of the Normans and, you know, Masons or Masons and, you know, Lathams and Duns and Dens and all them type of people, they was in that situation. So their last names got taken when they got put in captivity after they did get put in captivity. A lot of it happened if you was in Louisiana and Mississippi after the Louisiana Purchase. Once that place was purchased, you were put in captivity and then had to, you know, either pay to be a freeman or you was put in captivity until you was let free in, you know, the 60s. So, but then name changes. So you got the name change flow chart. You got Danite, Danuna, Denyen from Egypt. Aegean peoples call you the Danoi, right? And then it becomes Mycenaean, Dorian, Greek. Then you've got the Sicilite or Sicily people, Magna Graecia Greeks, right? Those is niggas. Got the Magna Carta, like the album and stuff. Yeah. Magna Graecia Greco. That's us. Etruscan, Italian, Mediterranean mixed populations. Hallstatt elites, Latine Celts, Gauls, Galte, Belgic, and Rhine peoples. The Celt Germanic frontier populations. Jutland, North Sea Germanic peoples, Danes, Norse and Viking, Norman, which is the Anglo-Saxon version of the Dane Norse Vikings, and then you've got the Normans of Sicily after we went back to Italy. So that's how that goes, right? So that is the lesson as far as the PowerPoint is concerned. Any questions so far or anything? Put it in the chat. While y'all doing that, we're going to pull up these sources. All right. So, I'll come back and check out the questions in a minute. As far as the biblical and ancient textual foundation, you've got the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament. You've got Genesis 49. It'll tell you about the things about, you know, Dan, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, their blessings, how they should live, how they should rule, all that type of stuff, right? We know about that. Exodus chapters 1 through 15. It'll say Numbers 1, 2, 26, 35. They'll explain things to you that'll give you some insight on this stuff. Deuteronomy 33, which will give you more insight on the blessings and the curses that happens, just like Genesis 49. Joshua chapter 13, right, which is when Dan does what they do and stuff like that, through chapters 21. Also Judges 1, 4, 5, also Judges 13, which is where you get the information on Dan as well, the complete one, with them still in the land and everything like that. Got 1 and 2 of Samuel, 1 Samuel, right? You got 1st and 2nd Kings. They'll help you explain this and understand this, especially the idolatrous situation and putting together the way we already had gods that we could deliver to the people to be, you know, heathens too. And then also the Chronicles in Jeremiah chapters 41 through 44. Josephus, the Antiquities of the Jews and the Jewish Wars, will give you information on them and their history in Greece. Philo of Alexandria, especially against Falcus and the embassy to Gaius, which is, you know, going to explain to you about the Gauls and their situation and their situations and their fights with Caesar and all those different types of people. 1st and 2nd Maccabees, which will tell you and show you that, you know, the Lacedaemonians and the Israelites were kin, if you will, right? Letters of Aristeas for the tradition surrounding the Alexandrian Judaism and the Greek Torah, which is where you get things like the Sabbaton, the Saturday Sabbath worship of the Greeks, Israelites that are there, which is ironic because they wasn't celebrating the moon, but, or, you know, yeah. Anyway, so, but Acts of the Apostles, especially Acts 2, 6, 9, 13 to 18, chapter 21, chapter 27 to 28, as a literary witness to the Jewish communities across the Eastern Mediterranean and Rome, which I would say the book of Romans is a good, a good little proof of that as well. You got the Septuagint traditions as evidence of a major Greek-speaking Jewish intellectual world. Why would they need so many Jewish speakers, right, in the Septuagint to make the Septuagint if it wasn't a thing where we was all these, bilingual or trilingual, quadlingual people? You fit. So for the diaspora framework, Eric S. Gruen's Diaspora, Jews Amidst Greeks and Romans, is one of the most important modern books. So if you don't have it, I know most of you never heard of it, go get it. Free PDF, Google Books, whatever you got to do. Go read it. Eric S. Gruen's Diaspora, Jews Amidst Greeks and Romans is the name of the book. One of the most important books to read of the modern books. His work emphasizes that ancient Jewish communities existed throughout the Mediterranean and interacted extensively with Greek and Roman society, right? You got sources on the Dan, Dinyan, Danua, Denoi, and the Sea Peoples. You could get some of these sources from Panah's video and Yawasap's videos and Ariala's videos, right? But for the sake of this one, I'm going to give you these sources too. You've got Our Jews, the End of the Bronze Age, Changes in Warfare and the Catastrophe, right? CA 1200 BC. So it begins there. This is going to talk about the beginning of the end of the Bronze Age and the basic beginning of the Dorians and their takeover of the Aegean over the Japhetites, right? How the Titans lose to the Olympians, if you will. Eric H. Klein. There's a lot of niggas named Eric that know about this. That's crazy. 1177 BC, the year civilization collapsed. A Kilbrew. A Kilbrew. A Killebrew. What the hell? Is that how you pronounce that? A Killebrew? What the hell? That's crazy. Hold on, am I tripping?
That's what it say.
Killebrew.
Kind of one.
Bro, that's wild, bro. That's crazy. Oh man. Okay.
I had to check that stuff out one.
Yeah, I ain't read this one, so but damn. Okay. So A. Killebrew and G. Lehman, education. You got the Philistines and other sea peoples in text and archaeology. Trude and Moshe Dothan, People of the Sea. That's a good book right there. The Search for the Philistine. It'll explain to you about the Danua, the Danyan, and how we took over with them, how he was helping them trade, just like I say in the Bible and all that type of stuff. It's not going to call them the Danites, but that's information you're going to have to, just put together like we did. It's very easy, not hard to do. But it will call them the Danyan, the Danua, the Danan, the Dorian, and all that type of stuff. You just put the names together and do the research, find out where they come from, and bam, you got it. Shelley Watchman, Seagoing Ships and Seamanship in the Bronze Age Levant. Yigiel Yadin, which is just a book that Yawasap and Yigiel Yadin and Panav have mentioned a lot. And Dan, why did he remain in ships? Because that nigga was a Viking. Because that man is all about them ships. He was a freaking pirate. Okay? So, Michael Corpman, when I say he, I'm talking about the tribe. Dan shall judge the Danites and Iron Age Israel's connection. And a judge they are, and a judge they will be. With the Dinyan Sea People, Journal of the Study of Old Testament, 44.3. Corpman's article is especially important because it directly argues for a Danite-Dinyan connection using judges to tell Dan, Samson traditions, and the Aegean parallels. So everything I put together on my own before I even knew who this cracker was, he put together on his own, which is crazy because it's like, damn, how did that happen? It had to have happened because it's actual, factual, easily findable information, right? Well, if you read. So, but yeah, and its parallels. So it is a scholarly publication though its conclusion remains debated rather than consensus. And that's only because they don't want to talk about us being who we say we are. So it's always going to be debated. Us being Israelites is always going to be debated. It's never going to be a fact that they teach in school. That's just the way it is. But we got things like this to make it fact. So we've got essential primary inscriptions and text to examine, which Ram Gadar and them have also mentioned, and Ariel has also mentioned. The Medinet Habu inscriptions of Ramses III. The Armanetta letters, especially reference relevant to the Danuna and the Danuna lands, which happen to be Joppa, of course, as well. Karatepe bilingual inscriptions. Homer, the Iliad, and the Odyssey, them things you read in school. They talk about the Danoai traditions. Egyptian sea people records, right? Dinyan, Ugaritic texts concerning Eastern Mediterranean geography and populations. The research question should be broken down into 3 tests. Dan and the Dinyan to the Danua, and the Danua Dinyan to the Homeric Danoai, right? That's how you're going to get your answers if you look at them up like that, is what ChatGPT is trying to tell you. You see how precise it's being? Because some of y'all don't know what to type in. Y'all don't know what to look up or how to do it. It's telling you what to do, right? Those are related research questions, but they should not be treated as one automatically proven equation. So you got to do some work, people. Dorians and post-Bronze Age Greek ethnogenesis for the traditions of Bronze Age populations to later Greek identities. So how they changed their names, how they could have all these hypothetical family structures and stuff like that, and be speaking this language and be this religion and have this ethnicity and all this different stuff. All of these books are going to explain that to you. So how Danites could be black, Judah could be black, Benjamin could be black, Levi could be black, and all the other tribes could be Hispanic, Native American, and Afro-Latino and stuff. It happens because of the people we were mixing with, where we were at, and the origins of the culture that we had around us in those places. Whether we were allowed to intermix with people, whether it was a separated thing where you were kind of like outcast and you were like to yourself autonomous from everybody else, or if you were like Greek and you just everybody's a one big old slap together melting pot where you all trying to do everything together as one people, one name, like America. So Jonathan M. Hall, Ethnic Identity in Greek Antiquity, very good book. John M. Hall, Hellenicity, even better book, Between Ethnicity and Culture, because this one's specifically about the Hellenist or the Hellenized or the Israelites, right? John Chadwick, The Mycenaean World. Oliver Dixon, The Aegean from Bronze Age to Iron Age. Robert Drews, The Coming of the Greeks. Carl G. Thomas and Craig Conant, Citadel to City-State, The Transformation of Greece, 1200 to 700 BC. From the time we got there as Dan to the time the Dorian invasion started. The Peloponnesian War, Peloponnesian War. Dorian invasion to the Peloponnesian War. So, Anthony Snodgrass, The Dark Age of Greece. Why did he call it the Dark Age? Because just like they call everything else a Dark Age that we ran. Hello, good book. Nicholas Hammond, I think IUIC's read that before too. Nicholas Hammond, A History of Greece to 322 BC. So right before or right after Alexander died. The important issue for your model is that archaeology has challenged the old picture of single, simple, and easily identify Dorian invasion, because now they try to make everything white, right? AI knows that. Iconoclasm is the word AI knows about, right? So that allows you to investigate Dorian identity as a process of post-collapse ethnogenesis, but it does not by itself establish Denian ancestry, right? So we gotta give us some more stuff. Sicily, one of the most important research zones. For ancient Sicily, I will use Moses I. Finley, Ancient Sicily. Edward A. Freeman, A History of Sicily from the Earliest Times. R. Ross Holloway, The Archaeology of Ancient Sicily, which is going to show you a bunch of black people. Franco D. Angelis, Archaic and Classical Greek Sicily, A Social and Economic History. Michael Deltzler, or Deitzler, Archaeologies and Colonialism. Thucydides, Thucydides, History of the Peloponnesian War, Book 6, which he's like a Josephus, you know, just less known and very specific historical books, but around the same time period. Diodorus Siculus, which we talked about before, Bibliotheca Historica, and Herodotus, Histories. Key populations to study, right? The Sicani, Sicels, or the Siceli, Elamaeans, Phoenicians, Carthaginians, I can't pronounce this shit. Chalcidian Greek, Dorian Greek, especially Corinthian, Syracuse, which is where the Corinthians was, the Rhodian, and the Cretan colonists. All right. Etruscan in Mediterranean Italy, for history on this in the Israelites' inclusion. Massimo Palatino, the Etruscans. Gramier Barker and Tom Razumin, the Etruscans. Lucy Shipley, the Etruscans, Lost Civilizations. Sybil Haynes, Etruscan Civilization and Cultural History. Jean McIntosh Turfa, The Etruscan World. Herodotus, Histories, 194. Dionysius, my bad, of Halicarnassus, Roman Antiquities, Book 1, and Strabo, Geography. Hallstatt, Litany, Celts, and the Gauls. So Barry Cunliffe, the ancient Celts. Barry Cunliffe, Europe between the oceans, 9000 BC to AD 1000. Barry Cunliffe, by steep desert or steppe, desert, and ocean. John T. Koch, Celtic Culture, a Historical Encyclopedia. Peter Wells, Beyond Celts, Germans, and Scythians, which if you look up that stuff too, the Scythians were also people around the Lacedaemonians or Lacedaemonians. Peter Wells, The Barbarians Speak. Vancellis Kruta, The Celts. Simon James, The Atlantic Celts. Caesar, The Gallic Wars, which we'll talk about. Strabo, Geography. Diodorus Siculus, Book 5. Tacticus, Germania. Gaul, Rhine, North Sea, Jutland, Denmark. Malcolm Todd, The Earliest German, or The Early Germans. The earliest of the early Germans. Peter Heather, Empires and Barbarians. Guy Halsall, Barbarian Migrations and Roman West. Peter Wells, The Barbarians Speak. Tacticus, Germania. Ptolemy, Geography. Jordanes, Getica. Prosopicus, History of the Wars, and Geography of Tours, History of the Franks. I like these older books more because, like the Tacticus, Ptolemy, and Jordanes, because they're going to give you books based off of the old names. So you'll be able to trace the names that we gave you guys earlier that we were talking about to these people's books. And you'll be able to see exactly where we was at, you know what I'm saying, and how we interacted, what type of things we was doing, and all that type of stuff after dropping the name Israelite during these times. Because, you know, they didn't allow us to call ourselves that. So, for the formation of Scandinavia, y'all probably not going to care too much about that, but I'll read them anyway. Els Rosendahl, The Vikings, right? Neil Price, Children of Ash and Elm. Anders Winthrop, The Age of the Vikings. Judith Jessic, The Viking Diaspora. Peter Sawyer, Oxford Illustrated History of the Vikings. Ellis Rosendahl and John Hines, The Danes in Europe in the Viking Age. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, a Southern Kingdom population complex. I ain't even going to read those. I'm just going to let you look at them. All right. Got to pause it. Go ahead. Also, they do some biblical references in there for you. 1 Kings 12:21-23. 2 Chronicles 11:13-17. 2 Chronicles 15:9. 2 Chronicles chapter 30 and 2 Chronicles 34:9. Ezra chapters 1 through chapter 10. Nehemiah chapter 7 and chapter 11. All right. Egypt, Elephantine, and North Africa. Bezalel Portine, archives from Elephantine. So this is going to tell you about the Phoenicians and stuff like that, right? And how Jews were coming over there and moving over there and becoming Philistines and Phoenicians and all that type of stuff, and just getting mixed up names, or they were just being Judeans as a broad stroke, right? When they were going to these places instead of being separated into tribal categories and stuff. So, yeah, Bezalel Portine, Elephantine Papyri in English, Joseph Melizé Mordezajewski, the Jews of Egypt, from Ramses II to Emperor Hadrian. Ari Kasher, the Jews in Hellenistic and Roman Egypt, Philo of Alexandria, Josephus, and of course Victor Truxover, Hellenistic Civilizations and the Jews. Pretty good book. Jews in Greece, Macedonia, and the Aegean and Rome. I ain't gonna read these. I'm just gonna let you see them. I probably don't give a damn. Bow. This will tell you about all the Jews in the Aegean, how we did our thing over there, Jewish synagogues, how we had our lifestyle over there, how we was able to keep the law over there, all type of different stuff before, Alexander and stuff like that, and then even afterwards. So, yeah, good stuff. The geographic sites I would research individually: Alexandria, Cyrene, Cyprus, Rhodes, Delos, Athens, Corinth, Thessalonica, Macedonia, Rome, and Ostia. And I would also add Miletus. Jewish and Eastern Mediterranean presence in Gaul and Britain. For Gaul, y'all don't give a damn, but it's there. You see the Jews in medieval Western Christendom, early medieval Jewish policy in Western Europe, the Jews in late ancient Rome and Gaul, in Leonard's book, The Jewish Diaspora Archaeology. And in Rome and Britain, S. Applebaum, where the Jews in Rome and Britain. And in Meredith's J.C. Warren, Invisibility, Eraser, and the Jewish Tombstone in Rome and Britain, because they tried to take us out, right? Not literally, but like erase us being there. So, because there weren't no white people that was there, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Ireland, Scotland, early Britain. Some of y'all might want these books. I'll just let you see them. Barry's books is up there again. Yep. All right. Yep. Malcolm III, Scottish dynasties, and James the Sixth and the First. So if you want some stuff on that, it'll give you the history of them black kings we was talking about, right? You can get all your history there, them. But now, when you watch this, you might want some of this stuff so you could trace your family back, my brother. But yeah. And then, of course, the African migration history. I'll read this to y'all, Negroes. John Thornton, Africa and Africans in the Making of the Atlantic World, 1400 to 1800. John Thornton, A Cultural History of the Atlantic World, 1250 to 1820. How about that? Paul E. Lovejoy, Transformations in Slavery. David Eltis and David Richardson, Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Gwendolyn Meadlow Hall, Slavery and African Ethnicities in the Americas. That's a good book. Michael Gomez, Exchanging Our Country Marks. Michael Gomez, African Dominican, because he understands. Walter Hawthorne, From Africa to Brazil. Linda Haywood, Central Africans and Central Transformations in the American Diaspora, and Leonard Haywood and John Thorpe, Central Africans, Atlantic Creoles in the Foundation of the Americas, 1585 to 1660. African Americans, you proposed Judah track use. I want to propose that African Americans are Judah. Got Michael A. Gomez again, Exchanging Our Country Marks, as I said. Gwendolyn Meadlow Hall, as I said, Slavery and African Ethnicities in America. Good book. David Eltis and David Richardson, Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade. That voice was making my goddamn throat. So, Philip D. Morgan, Slave Counterpoint. Ira Berlin, Many Thousands Gone. James Sweet, Recreating Africa. Linda Haywood and John Thornton again, Central Africans, Atlantic Creoles, and the Foundation of Americans. For you island people like my girl, here's some books for y'all. Damn, somebody died. Richard S. Dunn, Sugar and Slaves. B.W. Hickman, Slave Populations of the British Caribbean, 1807-1834. Orlando Patterson, The Sociology of Slavery. Trevor Bernard, Mastery, Tyranny, and Desire. The Reaper's Garden in the Colony of Citizens for French Caribbean Context. Yeah, all the, bourgeois. Are you Haitians? Haitian? Huh? But no. All the Haitians out there. There you go. And then for you people like me that want to know about the Black Vikings and stuff, here's some books y'all can look at. All right. So that's all we got, bro. That is the lesson. Y'all got all of the sources, so y'all can look them up. Y'all can pause it. I ain't even need y'all to come on and read tonight. Sorry, I forgot to tell y'all yet. Y'all got to get a first-hand, first-class seat, right? So.
Another one, mighty class.
Cool. Hope y'all liked it though. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope it made sense. Yeah, man. That's really all I got for y'all tonight. So next week I'll probably go into that video I was talking about that I didn't get to go into today, and we'll go from there with it. Unless I find something else that I need to talk about next week.
But before we get out of here, Cap.
Yeah, what's up? Was there a question in the chat that somebody put up?
I just want to bring this up for the chat.
Okay, good.
Wait. The Feast of Tabernacles, September 25th to September 28th. We're doing it in Greensboro. And for the people of the congregation, Captain Knox said we're trying to do it more intimate this year. More family focused. So a lot of people in the congregation and families are going to get priority. So send emails. So y'all can get a reservation and we can lock y'all in. It's going to be a complete family-friendly, intimate setting. And that's all I got for you. You got anything else, Adawan?
Oh, man. Like everybody be safe. Appreciate you for watching. Hit the like button when you come in the building or when you leave the building if you haven't already. And we'll talk to y'all later. Shalom.
Shalom.
This is not a test.
Black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music, black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music, black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music, black skin, black sauce, black Jesus, black music.